Today we're gonna listen to a Horrid Henry CD. Here we go. I've chosen this one because I love Horrid Henry. Let's listen to it. Let me put my camera on Deadpool. Being an idiot. Let's let Jeeves hold these again. And now we may do the video. We'll hear several Horrid Henry stories. This one first. And another person used to have these, but I'm not going to say the name. Here we go again. I think this is the most annoying phone this house has ever had, and I don't like it.
Horrid Henry Robs the Bank by Francesca Simon.
T-Rex.
Read by Miranda Richardson.
He just glitches sometimes. Rats.
Rats! Horrid Henry's newspaper.
Always glitches, man. Don't know why.
It's not fair! Howled Horrid Henry. I want a hip-hop robot dog. Horrid Henry needed money. Lots and lots and lots of money. His parents didn't need money, and yet they had loads more than he did. It was so unfair. Why was he so brilliant at spending money and so bad at getting money? And now, Mum and Dad refused to buy him something he desperately needed. You have plenty of toys, said Mum. Which you never play with, said Dad. That's because they're all so boring, screeched Henry. I want a robot dog. Too expensive, said Mum. Too noisy, said Dad. But everyone has a hip-hop robot dog, whined Henry. Everyone but me. Horrid Henry stomped out of the room. How could he get some money? Wait. Maybe he could persuade Peter to give him
This
some.
is Horrid Henry, by the way.
Peter always had tons of cash because he never bought anything. Yes! He could hold Peter's bunnykins for ransom. He could tell Peter his room was haunted and get Peter to pay him for ghost busting. He could make Peter donate to Henry's favourite charity, Child in Need.
That's a real child thing, by the
Hip-hop,
way.
robot
Children
dog,
in
here
need.
I come, thought Horrid Henry, bursting into Peter's bedroom. Perfect Peter and Tidy Ted were whispering together on the floor. Papers were scattered all around them. You can't come in my room, said Peter. Yes, I can, said Henry, because I'm already in.
Who?
Your room stinks. That's because you're in it, said Peter.
T-Rex.
Henry decided to ignore this insult. What you doing? Nothing,
Nothing.
said Peter. We're writing our own newspaper like Mrs. Oddbod suggested in assembly, said Ted. We've even got a Tidy with Ted column. he added proudly. Snooze paper, you mean? Said Henry.
T-Rex.
It is not, said Peter. Henry snorted. What's it called? The Best Boys Busy Bee, said Peter. What a stupid name, said Henry. It's not a stupid name, said Peter. Miss Lovely said it was perfect. Peter, I have a great idea for your paper, said Henry. What? Said Peter cautiously. You can use your newspaper for Fluffy's cat litter tray.
T-Rex.
Mom!
T-Rex.
Wailed Peter. Henry's being mean to me.
T-Rex.
Don't be horrid, Henry, shouted Mum. Peter is a poopsicle. Peter is a poopsicle, chanted Henry. But then Peter did something strange. Instead of screaming for Mum, Peter started writing. Now, everyone who buys my newspaper will know how horrid you are, said Peter, putting down his pencil.
It comes with a
Buy?
leaflet.
We're selling it in school tomorrow, said Ted. Miss Lovely said we could. Sell? Sell?
It comes
Let me
with
see that,
a leaflet.
said Henry, yanking
It
the
says
paper out of his
inside
hand.
it,
The Busy Bee's headline read,
explore the adventures of
Peter
Horrid
in
Henry
the Good as Gold book for the
CD
fourth time
audio
this
story.
month.
Horrid Henry's
Henry
newspaper.
snorted.
Horrid Henry's
What a
gets
worm.
rich quick
Then his
and
eye
other
caught the
stories
second headline.
by Miranda Richardson.
Computer
read
ban for
by,
Horrid Boy.
Um,
Henry was banned from playing
Simon,
games on the computer today because he
whoever,
was mean to his brother Peter
and
and called
other
him
stories.
Wibble
So
Pants
it's just
and Poopsicle.
about
The Busy Bee
what stories
hopes
you can
Henry
get
has
and all
learned
that
his lesson
stuff.
and will stop being such a big meanie.
Put it back in its
You're going to sell this? Spluttered Henry. His name would be Mud. Worse than Mud. Everyone would know what a stupid toad brother he had.
Everyone
Worse, some people might even believe Peter's lies.
T-Rex.
And then suddenly, Horrid Henry had a brilliant, spectacular idea. He'd write his own newspaper. Everyone would want to buy it. He'd be rich. He could call his newspaper the Owly Howler and charge 25p a copy. If he could write 7 editions a day and sell each copy to 500 people, he'd make... Well, multiplication was never his best subject, but he could make tons of money. On the other hand, writing 7 newspapers a day, every day, seemed an awful lot of work. An awful, awful lot of work. Perhaps the Daily Digger was the way to go. He'd charge a lot more per copy and do a lot less work. Yes!
So that's one story I will narrate for you. I will make it into a parody so it'll be more funny and rude. And yeah, so what these CDs come with, as I was going to show you, since the CD is going on, they come with their own leaflet. Just telling you what episodes are on. Anyway, it says, join Horrid Henry on these horridly funny adventures, including Horrid Henry Gets Rich Quick, Horrid Henry's newspaper, Horrid Henry and Moody Margaret, and others. And it just says Penguin Books, which is a CD or an audio CD company called Penguin Books, which I'm really interested in doing YouTube videos of audiobooks, which I might start doing on my channel if you want, guys, that on my channel, audiobook CDs. So that's Horrid Henry. It's still got a price on it of £19.99 from a charity shop. I'm not sure which one. Let's do another one now. This one is called Bend Your Size 5 Feet to the Viennese Waltz, Pop Waltz, Big Band Waltz, Musette Waltz, and others. Don't know how a lady is going to bend their size 5 feet to waltz, but I will, if I do get a girlfriend, I am going to ask if they can do it. This is not really called that, I just made it up. There wouldn't be a CD on that. That would just be weird. Okay. In it goes. Don't know if you can bend your hands to the waltz, but you can do your feet. Definitely your feet. And again, this has the same leaflet telling you about it. Horrid Henry's Adventures Down Toiletland. Intro is classical music. All that crap that they're having CDs nowadays. You know, they're not gonna. They're thinking about not doing CDs anymore because we can just download it onto our phone. We just download songs onto phones.
Horrid Henry by Francesca Simon.
Oh yeah, Horrid Henry's cool.
Read by Miranda Richardson.
Not Horrid Henry.
Horrid Henry's perfect day. Henry was horrid. Everyone said so, even his mother. Henry threw food, Henry snatched, Henry pushed and shoved and pinched. Even his teddy avoided him when possible.
Why did he do that?
His parents despaired. What are we going to do about that horrid boy? Sighed Mum. How did two people as nice as us have such a horrid child?
Girlfriend.
Sighed Dad. When Horrid Henry's parents took Henry to school, they walked behind him and pretended he was not theirs. Children pointed at Henry and whispered to their parents, "That's Horrid Henry. He's the boy who threw my jacket in the mud. He's the boy who squashed Billy's beetle. He's the boy who..."
shit himself.
Fill in whatever terrible deed you like. Horrid Henry was sure to have done it. Horrid Henry had a younger brother. His name was Perfect Peter. Perfect Peter always said please and thank you. Perfect Peter loved vegetables. Perfect Peter always used a hanky and never, ever picked his nose.
Grim.
"Why can't you be perfect like Peter?" said Henry's mum every day. As usual, Henry pretended not to hear. He continued melting Peter's crayons on the radiator.
T-Rex.
But Horrid Henry started to think. What if I were perfect? Thought Henry. I wonder what would happen. When Henry woke the next morning, he did not wake Peter by pouring water on Peter's head. Peter did not scream. This meant Henry's parents overslept and Henry and Peter were late for Cubs. Henry was very happy. Peter was very sad to be late for Cubs, but because he was perfect, Peter did not whine or complain. On the way to Cubs, Henry did not squabble with Peter over who sat in front. He did not pinch Peter, and he did not shove Peter. home, when Perfect Peter built a castle, Henry did not knock it down. Instead, Henry sat on the sofa and read a book. Mum and Dad ran into the room. "It's awfully quiet in here," said Mum. "Are you being horrid, Henry?" "No," said Henry. "Peter, is Henry knocking your castle down?" Peter longed to say yes, but that would be a lie. "No," said Peter. He wondered why Henry was behaving so strangely. "What are you doing, Henry?" said Dad. "Reading a wonderful story about some super mice," said Henry. Dad had never seen Henry read a book before. He checked to see if a comic was hidden inside. There was no comic. Henry was actually reading a book. Said Dad.
This is my mum's laptop, by the way.
It was almost time for dinner.
Tasty.
Henry was hungry and went into the kitchen where Dad was cooking. But instead of shouting, "I'm starving, where's my food?" Henry said, "Dad, you look tired. Can I help get supper ready?" "Don't be horrid, Henry," said Dad,
Don't be
pouring
horrid, Henry.
peas into boiling water. Then he stopped. "What did you say, Henry?" asked Dad. "Can I help, Dad?" said Perfect Peter. "I asked if you needed any help," said Henry. "I asked first," said Peter. "Henry will just make a mess," said Dad. "Peter, would you peel the carrots while I sit down for a moment?" "Of course," said Perfect Peter.
And that's another
Peter
story I
washed
will
his
narrate for you
spotless
as well.
hands. Peter put on his spotless apron. Peter rolled up his spotless sleeves. Peter waited for Henry to snatch the peeler. But Henry laid the table instead. Mum came into the kitchen.
Yeah, so I will narrate these stories, but more in an adult fashion, so you guys can have a laugh and just joke about Horrid Henry, the adult version, and that unfortunate fell out of the CD case. So let's leave my controller to charge. And again, just tells you what it says about Horrid Henry. And it's Horrid Henry and other stories. Obviously, because it's... And I will leave this video on a nice note, and I'm going to do more videos of what I get from MCM Comic Con and Etsy.